the Forever Bristol City podcast. We're recording this on the back of a 3-2 win against Michael Carrick's Borough. I'm joined today by Neil and Ian, as we normally do. Your thoughts, Neil, working away from the ground, and it seems to be in stark contrast to how I felt, to be honest. But go on, what did you say with your little group?
Well, I will be positive, David. I'm not going to go there. Fantastic goal, penalty. Well, two great goals from Sykes and Taylor Hickman that we'll get to, and the penalty. There were a lot of positives, but before the first goal, it was a bit boring, wasn't it? And it was a bit sort of tepid, actually, in the way that we actually approached the game a bit. If we're saying front foot, exciting football and everything like that, we were getting the ball, we were passing it around and everything without actually sort of creating anything. And it took that Gardner Hickman and then the subsequent back pass miss by Conway to actually get us going a little bit at the end of the first half, really. Yeah. But no, fantastic result against a team that has lost 1 in 12.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And you know, was on the real form team in the division. Fantastic.
I didn't realise their form was that good. What did you think, Ian, coming away? You phoned me on your way down to deepest Somerset, or is it Devon where you live? I can't remember now, but precisely. I know where you live. What did you think driving away? You seemed pretty chipper on the phone when you called me from the car.
I was very pleased. We looked like we had a purpose about us. Yeah, people don't like possession-based football. My advice to them would be stop coming and go and watch something else that's a little bit more direct, because that's how Liam Manning was advertised. And as somebody has said on here, Tim Monaghan already better football than Nige played in 2.5 years. I think that might be a bit harsh, but yes, I liked it. We looked like we had a purpose. We looked like we could stop them from doing too much, bearing in mind what Neil said about their current form. I think going into the game, they were the 4th best team in the division. But strangely enough, I mean, their current form was something like picking up 76% of the points. And our current form was we were picking up 38% of the points. But spookily enough, their away record over the season and our home record over the season were identical. So, but you have to factor in that they started very badly, because obviously he's putting a new team together up there, and they didn't quite gel. But I thought they had some good players. I mean, let's be honest, with their 2 goals, we threw 2 in the net, didn't we? Awful.
All right.
Awful.
Let's talk about the goals. Let's talk about the goals in a minute, Ian, when we get.
But overall, very pleased. Keep in mind, Manning's had the players now for 3 weeks. He didn't have 3 of the players that started yesterday until Thursday. So I think anybody saying, well, I'm not happy with that, just needs to give their head a wobble. And that is how we're going to play. And the wheels will come off, same as they did for the lad. He's at Southampton now. When he was at Swansea, the wheels will come off occasionally, just like they did under Nigel. And what we have to do is be patient, put up with it. And you never know, once he's had a couple of windows, wow, you will see a difference then, I'm sure.
Right. I mean, it's interesting you say the wheels will come off like they did for Nigel. With all due respect to Nigel, I don't think the wheels were ever on, because we never experienced that managerial bounce. And one thing I do want to say, in the aftermath of the QPR game on social media, there was a lot of comments that we were towing the party line, and you know, the cult of Nige was having a little bit of a pop at us. And I just want to say this now, right? Look, it hasn't been great under Nige. He's done a good job in certain compartments. What we didn't like, and what I certainly didn't like, was the manner in which Nigel was exited from the club. So not that he's gone, but just the manner. And I think that's why there's been this sort of anti-Liam, anti-board feeling in some quarters, that's all.
Yeah, who do you put that down to?
The board brought it upon themselves by the manner in which they did it.
Yeah. No, not the ill feeling as you describe it in some quarters, by which I think you mean OTIB. I'm talking about which seem fixated with. I'm talking about who brought the sacking on, because I can tell you that Nigel Pearson would still be in a job if he hadn't started playing up.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He brought it on himself by his agitation, and we've said it's about managing up, but he's gone. Let's move on. You know,
the
person who came with me to the game yesterday said, "Where's all Nigel Pearson chance gone?"
Well, if I came into your company and I was working for you and I was doing an okay job, but not great, and I started playing up and agitating, what would you do?
Well, I'd probably get you out here. As simple as that. Yeah, no, that's it.
Well, that's it.
But we went to the senior Reds. We went to the senior Reds, and Gavin Marshall, as he did in the end of the first week of media debacle, because he was the one bright light. He came and spoke at the senior Reds, and he said, "Look at it, 5 defeats in 7." You know, he cited the Stoke game. He cited the performance against Coventry.
No, wait a minute. He didn't. There was a chap on the table, and his exact comment was this. He said to Gavin Marshall, "Well, you've sacked a manager that was very popular, and I've been coming down here, and I can tell you the games against Stoke, Coventry, they're terrible. We could have been 3-0 down against Coventry," and he's quite right in everything he said. So the question I ask is, well, who was the manager when we played those clubs?
Yeah.
It wasn't Liam Manning.
No.
And it wasn't Gavin Marshall. So you can't, on the one hand, complain about the results, complain about the form, complain about the fact we were 15th when Nigel came in and we were 15th when he left, and then say, but I think he should have kept his job.
No, I'm not saying. Look, he had some bad luck with injuries, but as you said, and as Neil said, Neil didn't say. You said we play with a degree of purpose. But look, he's gone. Let's move on, right? And we want to be positive about this. For me, I slightly disagree with Neil that it was the most boring 3-2 win. I didn't
say the most boring 3-2.
Oh, go on. Most boring half. No, you said your son said.
Oh yeah. No, I mean before that Taylor Hickman goal, that there were times when we would get the ball in the midfield, and Taylor Hickman.
Well, he was a case in point. He did a 360-degree turn.
And there was space, and we were passing it. But I take on board Ian's point, well made, about the fact that is possession-based football, and that's something that we're going to have to get used to as a club. That we're going to be passing it a lot more and all the rest of it. And we've had a number of years now, 2 or 3 years of we get the ball, we're forward, get the ball, we're forward, or whatever, because we're not a possession-based team. We don't get a lot of possession. So when we were getting the possession, we were more on the looking to be progressive with it. Whereas now we're doing a lot of passing with inside the midfield and a lot of.
Well, even yesterday we only had 43% possession, so it wasn't.
Well, Nigel Pearson said we were a counter-attacking team, and I didn't see that much either. If you take the game at Leicester away, as soon as we got the ball, we gave it back to them. It was like watching attacking defence. And I'd rather have a go and lose 3-2 than just get the ball and pass.
I never knew what our identity was under Pearson, other than the fact that we weren't a possession-based side. And what I would say yesterday, I went with a good friend of mine. Those of you that watch Sky, if you watch Bundesliga or Portuguese football on Sky, good friend of mine, Tim Capel, who watches a lot of football, he's been to the last 2 City games with me, and he said to me twice on more than one occasion yesterday, look at the high press, look how many we had, all of our outfield players in their half. And I'll be honest, I looked at that and I thought, yeah, do you know what? I've not actually seen that. The other thing he said as well was the number of 50-50 balls that we lost. Yeah. Now maybe maybe Jason Knight's an exception there, because I thought he had an absolutely tremendous game yesterday. But that's an impartial observer who's seen 2 games back to back pretty much, knows his football because he watches a lot of it. But I thought, that's that possession base. And as somebody else said on one of the forums, that opening half hour, they were the form team, or are the form team until yesterday. I didn't realise it was 1 defeat in 12. But that first half hour, we didn't let them overrun us or anything like that. So that has to be a positive.
Yeah. I'm not. All right. It's a different way of playing that, as a crowd, we're going to have to get used to,
Correct.
Really, a patient build-up and a patient way of playing. That would, we just had a number.
Is
of
it the
years
Sean
under
O'Driscoll style of football with better? Is it Sean O'Driscoll style of football with better players? Dare I say, at a higher level? No, because he was at that level. No, all right, that's it. Right, okay. Let's look at the lineup. Neil, the game at QPR was pretty bloody awful. I spoke to a QPR fan. Didn't know he was a QPR fan. In fact, there was a cabbie in London last weekend, and we were just chatting about football as you do. And I said, "Who do you support?" In fact, he said to me, he detected the accent. He said, "Bristol." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I went to the game last week." He said, "It was absolute rubbish, wasn't it?" But there we go. The word changes. I would have been very surprised if Andy Vyman had started. But what did you think of that lineup when you saw it named before kickoff? A midfield pivot at the back of TGH and James. Yeah. But any surprises for you?
No, I don't think so. I think TGH, from what Manning said post game, trained very well in the week, and obviously gives you a little bit more of a physicality, I would say, potentially. And from a passing perspective, if he's looking to go with the type of play we saw yesterday, he obviously gives a different dimension to Andy Vyman, really, in that regard. So Mehmeti for Bell, I think, was the only other change yesterday.
Yeah, from the second half lineup, yeah.
And I mean, he's giving Sam as much opportunity as possible at the moment.
What did you think, Ian, about the starting lineup? I mean, as you say, he had players that have been away, but you commented as well that the bench looked strong. But what was your thought on that lineup? It was predictable to some extent.
I'd say it's very predictable. But what else can we do with 8 players injured and still out? So he didn't make the mistake he made at QPR of dropping Taylor Hickman for Vyman, and he played Knight in his most effective position. So if he'd have got that wrong again, I'd have been annoyed at that, but he didn't. So he's obviously someone that thinks that, right, okay, yeah, that was a cock up, but I won't do that again. In terms of what Tim said, Dave, just quickly, we won the game. We had double the shots on target, and a very high percentage of our shots were on target yesterday. That was different. But in terms of duels won, Tim's quite right. They won 61 to our 54. They crossed the ball 20 times to our 6. And they put together almost 3 times as many passes forward. Probably 2.5 times as many passes forward. Yeah. And they had more touches in the opposition box. So if there's work to do, that's where it is.
Yeah, and I did think they knocked it round. They knocked it round well, didn't they? I mean, Carrick.
Well, what you've got is a lot of teams now, and I think this is something that's going to happen in the game. A lot of the coaches are following this same mantra, and they all want to play the same. So it's 4-2-3-1, which is 4-5-1 defending, 4-3-3 attacking. But the funny thing is that if you had 2 sides yesterday trying to do exactly the same thing, but they were better at it because Carrick's had a lot longer in the job than Liam Manning. So that's how sides will play. And when you come across, I would say, what I call the more modern coaches, so the guys under 40, if you will, you'll find that. And if you look I've watched the Liverpool Man City game, very, very similar. They're not afraid to go from the edge of the box back to the keeper if they think they can retain possession and build a better attack.
No, that's good.
Look, I'll be honest, I don't particularly enjoy it when they're doing that. I don't sit there thinking, oh, that's a nice pass from Rob Dickie to Zach Viner. But in fairness, we used to do that under Nigel Pearson, but we didn't do it very well.
No. I mean, Tim Monaghan's just said, I'll shut up now. Sorry, this is on the text feed. He said, I've just been sick of this Nigel Pearson loving for a ridiculously average manager. I think you're speaking for a big chunk of the fans, and I'd love to follow some of the threads if Manning does deliver, and he's got 2 tough games coming up in the next 7 days on Wednesday and on Sunday. But I did see some positive signs yesterday. Let's get into the action. I mean, it was, as you say, a quiet opening. Greenwood bought a smart save from Max. Personally, yesterday, I thought Max's handling was good. He did some good stuff all the way through the game. Engel was high and wide with an effort, but then, as I say, when everybody was just about dozing off to sleep, Jason Knight setting up. I want to keep calling him Taylor Gardner-Haskins, yeah, but I won't. It's Taylor Gardner-Hickman or Taylor, yeah, a bit better than his namesake, Taylor Moore. What a bloody goal that was!
Well,
they parted like the Red Sea, their defence, didn't they?
I think everybody from where we are in E32, everybody just looked, and when it actually went in, we thought that is a very un-Bristol City goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just the way in which the last few seasons we got that ball down in, we've been striding forward, and we would look to pass it left or look to pass it right, wouldn't it? And we've been saying, for instance, just have a pop. You get a deflection. Anything could happen or whatever. But the way he charged it down and he went forward with purpose, and then he absolutely killed it. And Dien's a good keeper.
Yeah.
He's a good keeper at that level. And the way he pinged it in the top corner there, and I think everybody, well, I can't speak for everybody in the ground, but certainly everybody around us just thought, that's the goal of the season. It's going to take something to beat that. As an individual goal of the season. And it's the type of goal that we haven't seen down the game, other than perhaps the Andy Vyman.
Oh, you were going to say the little chip that you put in against?
No, the one from outside, the only other goal from outside the box of the last few seasons, last year's goal with Andy Vyman. But that was, very short. He cut in. TGH went from the halfway line, ran at the players for about 30 yards, and then shot.
Yeah.
Very reminiscent of sort of the Kevin De Bruyne goal against us
in
the Cup last year. Just that ability to shoot when you're on the run.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Ian, I mean, I can't remember, as Neil's just said, we don't see a lot of City goals like that down there, but I'm trying to, one of the best we've seen for a while. It's best to say that, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, the problem's been we haven't got anybody that can shoot. Could you see Matty James or Joe Williams scoring that goal?
Matty James, yes. Matty James, yes. Or he'd run out of puff. Joe Williams, no. He'd slice it off his boots.
Well, it's funny that he hadn't done it in the time he's been here. So, and our forwards they can finish from, I would say, closer range. But the goal that we got we got 2 goals at Rotherham. Tommy scored 2 good goals, especially the first one. Was the first one from outside the box or slightly inside?
No, they were good. There was the one where he cut in, the first one, and the second one was a little bit of a volley
on the edge of the box.
No, it's the first. It's the first.
It was outside, but on the edge.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the first thing I thought when it went in. We just don't shoot from outside the box, and boy, that if you can't do that, then that's make you easy to defend against. Because people just let you have the ball. Think, well, look, if he hits it, it's going in Rose Ed, so don't worry about it. Just mark the blokes in the box.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah. And it had, when I saw it from a slightly different angle on some replays last night, he got a lot more bend on it than I initially thought.
Yeah.
So he started it wide, and it came in and to the top, and that was unsafe. You wouldn't have saved that with 2 goalkeepers. So yeah, really pleased. And
sign him now, Ian.
Well, we've got an option to sign him at the end of the season, and all the prices are agreed. I wouldn't muck about, but they might leave it to the end of the season because then they don't have to part with the money. So I don't know the financials around it, but I do know that Brian Tinian said we've got an option. It's not an obligation; it's an option, and the price is agreed. Now, depending on what you read, it's either 700 grand plus 1.2 or 1.2 in total, or 700 grand in total. So, whatever, he's good value at that kind of money.
Yeah. Neil, Matthew Seaward said on here, Tommy's hold-up play was poor. He had plenty of balls to feet. And 5 minutes after the goal, 6 minutes after the goal, he was put through. It was a one-on-one.
It was a back pass, wasn't it?
Was it a back pass? Sorry, that's right. It was a back pass.
Yeah.
It was a back pass. Is he lacking a bit of confidence? Is his physicality not there to lead the line in the manner that we seem to be using him like that? And he should have tucked that one away, shouldn't he? Yeah.
Well, one thing that they've got in this division is in the centre they've got big units. The teams that we're playing,
They were strung out across the back. Yeah,
Frail yesterday is a big unit. His back, playing it into Tommy on the ground or at his chest or whatever like that, with his back to goal. I mean, in a lot of ways, Nahki Wells is a much better player with his back to goal than Tommy is. Tommy's having to adapt the way he's playing, and I know Ian's made some really good points in the past about how Tommy needs to play in a 2 rather than that 1 at the top. But we're having to force, and in a lot of ways, Cornick, that we'll get to, plays that role better. But Tommy is a better finisher, per se. That back pass for the goal kind of got the ball underneath his feet a little bit, really.
Yeah. He didn't get that's a confidence.
He didn't really look with sort of purpose, and then he shot at pretty much the only. I mean, it's bad miss. You've got to take those away at 1-0. You're never entirely sure when that's going to come back and bite you at later stage. When you have an opportunity like that, a key moment, you have to do it.
Yeah,
and actually do it. And in terms of footballing ability, it was a bad mess.
Okay. Ian, what did you think? And what did you think of Tommy's performance overall, particularly in that opening half hour? I mean, him and Bell did look what they are, young players up front against sort of giants. They were 3 strapping blokes across their back 3 that were there. But, were you disappointed that he didn't tuck that away and, hasn't looked great?
I mean, sometimes you have to give the goalkeeper credit. And most times when someone goes through like that, even with people like Erling Haaland, they don't always score. Tommy's Neil's made the point, and I get a bit tired of making it, that we do need to play with 2 up front. It isn't the modern way. I'll accept that. And once again, coming back to these young modern Pep Guardiola style coaches who want to play high press, front foot, attacking football. And it fits into this shape because it's quite a flexible shape. 4-2-3-1, like I said earlier on, it's 4-5-1 defending, 4-3-3 attacking, and you hope your midfield players do once again what ours don't do often enough, and that's get past the ball. I thought Knighty played higher than he normally does yesterday. Sometimes he was joining in almost as a second striker. And not to miss a point is coming on the feed. Bobby Lostin found, Rob Dickey has a good ability from long range shooting. I've seen 2 or 3 that he scored from 30, 35 yards. So, and he hits it low. So you could get him forward and get him on free kicks. Well, I know he's valuable in the box, as he showed for the 3rd goal. But Rob Dickey can strike a ball. But we haven't got there isn't, unless it's TGH, we haven't got an Alan Walsh in the side, or we haven't got a Mickey Bell, Darren Barnard type free kick taker.
No, that's very true.
And if you haven't got one, you haven't got one. That's what I'd like to see, like a creative midfield player who could do that. And no doubt that's what he's going to be looking for when he strengthens in January, where, you never know, we might have a couple of outgoings as well if we can get more players.
Interesting. We'll talk about that in a bit when we've. I'll stick with you, Ian, because straight after, right on the stroke of 45, bring out the celebrations, a bloody penalty, And when you look at some of the ones that we haven't got, that was one of the softest appeals. I mean, Matty went down. He probably thought I better appeal, but we won't get it. But Jesus, that was sloppy penalty, wasn't it? Soft penalty.
It was from their point of view, because Del Fry tried to clear it, and Matty got his toe on it first.
Yeah,
and he caught him. I mean, I've watched it on a replay. He does catch him. All right, not you don't have to boot somebody up in the air for it to be a penalty, but he caught him. So obviously, as the pundits say, well, he's been caught, so he's entitled to go down. He felt contact. But I've seen worse penalties given. I've got to be perfectly honest. I thought the ref did pretty well yesterday, and he kept the free kick count down. I mean, we only gave away 8 free kicks.
That's right.
Yesterday.
That's
so right. So I was surprised. I think Taylor Gardner-Hickman had the ball at first, and then Tommy said, "No, I'm on penalties." So
Well, I think two things there.
I was surprised he took it because you're right, he is lacking confidence, and you do need.
And that
one
was
thing
brave
you
of
do,
him
take penalties.
to take it because, I mean, it would have dented his confidence had he not done so. But Neil, you've got a view on Taylor picking the ball up because we've seen this happen. When was the last time we had a penalty? But there's a tactic.
Hull at
home. There's a tactic in a player picking up the ball because he's getting all the mouth from the opposition, and then right, you take it. It lets the player who is going to take it focus. Is that how you saw it yesterday, rather than Taylor?
That's how I saw
go.
it. And I thought whether it was Tommy saying I want it, or whether it was the team collectively, Matty James or whatever was there, and saying no, let's get Tommy to take it. I mean, what better way to get over Tommy missing the chance that he did than giving him an opportunity within a number of minutes to actually, do it. Just before that penalty, obviously when he got fouled on the edge of the box, which was a yellow but possible last man. Great free kick by Taylor Hickman. And a good save on the edge of the area as well. But Ian makes the point, obviously, with regards to how Taylor Hickman actually, when you look at him, is starting to be a bit fundamental there. He's on the corners, he's on the free kicks, he is becoming an important person with inside that team in a way in which last season we used Naismith in that, but I think he's got a bit more mobility to him than Naismith.
I agree. No, I agree. Anyway, we go in half time, 2-0 up, and you're thinking, more of that, please. And then the chap who sits in front of me, he said, well, bit of a dodgy scoreline, 2-0. You're never safe with that. Well, I hope it's not going to be a Stoke game. Well, less than 10 minutes into the second half, I'll stick with you, Neil, for both of their goals, and then come to you, Ian, for both as well. But oh my lord, Max doing a great save from Crooks onto the bar.
Did he get a touch?
Yeah, I think he did.
He got a touch.
Yeah, right. I think he did.
Yeah,
I thought. I mean, was it? Zach Viner's.
I hate Matt Crooks. Matt Crooks is the new David Kelly for me.
Did he score against us before?
Matt Crooks just scores against us every single time. He could be with a plaster cast on crutches or whatever like that. And it could be like, you're playing Bristol City next week. I'll be there or whatever with it. I mean, whether it's, corners going in, scores. You look at Matt Crooks, he gets scores against us game in, game out.
Is that right? A bit like Steve Bull as well, then going back in the day for Wolves. Dave Kelly, Walsall and what have you. I thought for me, Max, he touched it onto the bar, and then Zach, I don't know where he was headed, but it was almost like he couldn't help himself in the sense that...
Well, I don't know whether... I've looked back at it and I thought, my instant reaction was he's trying to head it back. But then I'm thinking, why are you trying to head it back when you can see the keeper's on the floor? It's one thing, the keeper's standing up, you try to head it back, but the keeper's on the floor. But then I've looked at it, and it's almost like, I don't know whether he's tried to flick it backwards over his head, or he's tried to flick it this way or flick it away, and it's just completely
cocked up. If you're listening to this on one of the podcasts, you won't see Neil's head movements there. If you're watching it on YouTube, you'll see the back head.
I'm either going left, right, back head, or
what have you.
But one way or another, it came at him very, very quick, and he's tried to control the header, either left, right, back, forward, whatever.
Well, it went in,
and he's lost.
And his co-defender put his arm around him and brought him on. But then less than 2 minutes after that, in goes the second goal. Tanner robbed. Greenwood.
Tanner needs to do more there. The ball came out to him. He needed an extra touch.
50-50. And after his poor first touch, he lost the challenge, which led to the ball bouncing.
We played out, but we switched off, didn't we? We switched off because the ball came across to Tanner. Tanner lost the ball. The guy looked up, and there wasn't anybody within 5-7 yards of Crooks in the centre. So then he's played the, one pass, and Crooks is in on the edge of the area. So we played the ball out to Tanner, and I think we were going through a reset. So it was a lack of concentration defensively, team-wise, on that second goal. Poor by Tanner.
Yeah.
Okay, he got the ball in there. He lost the challenge, and then subsequently lost the 50-50. And then just one pass, the guy's on the edge of the area without anybody 5 or 10. And then there's Pring running across from left back, trying to get a challenge in. So collectively, very, very poor second goal. First goal, accidental.
That happens.
Second goal collectively worse defensively.
Ian, your take on both of those goals? Unfortunate by Viner. How did you see his attempted whatever it was?
Well, Zach, when somebody said to me, "Well, what do you think Viner should have done?" I said anything but what he did. Anything. Head it up in the air. Try and get it on his chest and do an overhead kick. Head it out, which I think he might have been trying to do and just misheaded it. But what he did was just dense. It was just one of those things you do as a footballer and you think, what the... I mean, Zach could be scratching his head this morning thinking, what was I trying to do? I don't know. But you're in the middle of a game of football. You get almost 22,000 people screaming at you. You're in front of the away fans. And occasionally people get it wrong. And Zach's dragged us out the mire on more times than I can remember over the last 18 months. He's really come on as a player. So I think, he's probably entitled to that. It didn't cost us the game, which it could have, because it could have turned it. I mean, Borough definitely went up a gear. I think Michael Carrick got stuck into him at half time.
Well, they were out a good 2 or 3 minutes before we were at the start, weren't they?
Yeah, and I think, perhaps our lads got a little bit, this is all going swimmingly, and got a little bit complacent. George Tanner got dispossessed when he shouldn't have, over by the touchline. Worst case scenario, he could have let it go out for a throw or kicked it out. But we did a lot of that, and people will cuss George Tanner about distribution and all the rest of it. But we give him the ball in some lousy situations. And what we also do, there was a couple of times yesterday, there was a guy in front of me in a Dolman, and he said, well, you're not passing it. Who do you want to pass it to? There's no movement in front of him. I mean, none. It was like watching Sabutio. Where somebody got a flick the other bloke.
A finger flicking.
Yeah, but I don't think he's. I don't think he's. He's a good defender, George. He ain't the best going forward. I think he'd tell you that himself. But that was a mistake. He shouldn't have done that. He's made a mistake. The lads got away. Crooks. All our players are thinking about moving forward. So Crooks is there unmarked when he gets the ball. And I mean, I got pelters for saying we should have signed Matt Crooks from Rotherham. And I mean, Borough picked him up for 400 grand. Yeah. And he's just the type of player, because he can play in midfield. He can play more or less 9 as he did yesterday. And he's a big unit. Yeah. He's
there's another player that they brought on late on, again, adaptable. He was Rotherham's player of the season. Is it Gavin Barlasser? He's another tall midfielder.
Rotherham, another Rotherham guy that they got from Rotherham. Yeah.
That was another bloke that I just don't think we had the money to sign him. But I know he was one we were looking at. But yeah, he was a good midfield player. Who was the big lad that they brought on?
Oh, Josh Coburn.
Josh Coburn, the ex-Gas
head. The ex-Gas head, yeah.
Yeah. Now, this is what makes me smile. I got to admit about other clubs. They seem to have a plethora of 6'4" blokes they can bring on at the end of the game to try and either close it out or provide something different in the box. And when you've got somebody like that in the box, you've got more targets and your crosses don't have to be quite as good. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, definitely, because he was on loan at the Rovers from Borough, wasn't he?
That's right, yeah.
And I think he's a unit. I don't know if he's a brilliant footballer, but he's certainly a unit. And we just don't seem to have, apart from Rob Dickey. I mean, TGH is 6'2".
Yeah,
but we don't seem to have that many. Okay, Atkin can come back. Carl Naismith is.
I think eventually, if we're going to play that guy up top, that we have to have a physicality up top. If we're going to be looking to play balls into that guy up top of the 4-2-3-1, then we need a physical striker in that role, because it's not going to be Nahki Wells, although he adapts quite well.
No, it needs to be better than what we've got. And again, we're talking. You made a good point earlier about transfers in and out, and whether we. Well,
in the cup game in the Oxford, by way of parallel, when Manning was down as an opposition, they had an 18-year-old called O'Donkle.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. 18-year, big physical guy at the top of the sort of the Christmas tree, so to speak, up there. And that's obviously, you know, back to goal. He was very raw, but he was good.
Yeah.
In it as well. And I think, look, they're going to know Liam Manning and whatever the assistant manager's name is, escapes me.
Sog.
Thank you very much. Whatever, they're going to know, aren't they?
Brian Tinian.
They are performance analysts in themselves, really.
Yeah.
You know, rather than relying on an analytical department to actually provide them, which perhaps Nigel might have done, they're going to be there and they're going to say, right, the way we're playing, let's see how it transpires. And the Championship is so much more than League One.
Yeah,
if you're taking, you know, the way you play in League One and then you take it into the Championship, and that's the way you want to play, within the next month they're going to have an opinion on which players can do it and which players can't do it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, Ian, what proved to be the winning goal, 67 minutes. Talk us through that.
Good far post corner. Big unit, Rob Dickie at the back, gets up, wins the ball. The keeper was coming for the cross, then was backtracking a little bit. So Dickie's headed it towards goal. Keeper's got a touch onto the bar. He's come out at a jaunty angle. And Mark Sykes has got on the end of it and volleyed it in the net.
It was a cracking. I mean, we had the TGH goal.
It was a really good finish.
Yeah, that was spectacular.
It was a really good finish from a tight angle, and it was a volley. And I've seen plenty of them go flying up the back of the south stand. So, yeah, a good goal, and it showed a lot of character to come back after literally throwing two in the net for them. I mean, I've seen City sides in the past where we'd have finished up losing that 4-5-2.
Yeah. What did you think of Mark Sykes' overall performance yesterday? And what did you think of that?
I think he got better in the second half. He was our outlet, wasn't he? He was the guy that was getting the ball and forcing them backwards because they were definitely the better side in the second half.
At one stage, I remember them having, this is over my side, Lower Lansdowne, they had three players. They were swarming all over us, but fair credit, we held firm. I remember they had three players unmarked on the far side of the box, but they couldn't get the ball across. Neil, take us through the goal. I mean, Ian's taken us through it, but it was another spectacular finish, wasn't it? Really?
Well, for me, I'm standing there in E32, looking across, and I'm thinking, okay, we've got a corner here. The only person that we know is going to be any danger for us at a corner is Rob Dickie.
Yeah.
Because as Ian has identified, we haven't got the height, we haven't got the physicality on set pieces. You know, it's a Rob Dickie show. And he's very good at this. You know, he's been a fantastic signing.
Fantastic signing. On a par with Adam Webster so far?
Yeah. Well,
who's not?
Adam Webster came and he's, you know, he had a lot of injuries, and that was still $3.5 million for Adam Webster, wasn't it? 700.
But he brings the ball out. He brings the ball out as well. I mean,
he's not an Adam Webster.
No, but and talking about him, he seems to have plateaued a bit at Brighton.
He's had injuries.
He's had injuries again. Sorry. Anyway, back to the goal.
But I thought, okay, the edge of the area. I'm looking where Dickie is. TGH produces an absolutely fantastic corner kick. Absolutely fantastic. He absolutely hits where Dickie is running into. That's obviously something to work on training, but it takes some skill. How many corners have we seen from City where, you know, we don't get beyond the first man or whatever like that? There was still a couple yesterday, but it's never a perfect thing. But the actual corner was a fantastic cross by TGH. And as Ian quite rightly said, you know, Den came and then actually went, I'm not going to get there. I didn't see it hit the crossbar in, I have to say. I thought it was a save.
It was a save. No, I think Ian said it was a save. He just flipped it.
Yeah,
didn't hit the bar.
It didn't hit the bar.
No.
I don't. Well, to me, it looked like he might have touched it onto the bar.
No, he just because the camera behind the goal, he just gets a hand to it.
But as rightly, fantastic, controlled, measured, but with the power. Because the guy's on the line. If you try to, you know, he's covering on the line, and he just went, you know.
Well, it was not unlike
Tommy's
second goal, not unlike Tommy's second goal at Rotherham, but with more power, in the sense of flying. I mean, Tommy's goal was more central goal.
It was flicked, so wasn't
Well,
Tommy's second goal.
Yeah, Tommy's goal was
Was
a
it?
flick from a cross.
But
but it was a stretch leg for it. This one, Sykes, he had to get over the ball.
It was a good finish, but he was more in the middle of the goal than Sykes. Sykes that was quite a tight angle. He was about, I'm guessing he wasn't any more than a yard out from the touchline.
Yeah, and he had to get it. He had to keep it down and hit it on the volley, and that's why
it's the type of thing where you've either seen it being blasted to rosette,
correct,
or it comes off the crossbar.
Yeah,
the top of the crossbar. I mean, to do it in the way that he did, fantastic technique. And Mark Sykes, I don't think he was great first half. Came into his own second half, but a free transfer signing, League One.
Yeah, it's not bad.
He's a good player for us.
Well, we're talking about signings,
and he's out of contract next season.
End of next summer. 25. So you really got to be tying him down this summer.
He's not going to be on major money, is he? Coming on a free transfer, and now he's a full Republic of Ireland international.
Made his debut, didn't he?
Yes, started debut.
Yeah,
and with the new manager coming in for Republic of Ireland and all the rest of it, they're not blessed with a load of choices.
No.
So,
his stock's going to go up.
He's a player that we're going to have to look to tie down.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, as expected, Borough came back into it. Max did a couple of, I'll call them instinctive saves. He was in the right place at the right time. He did get beaten once by Silvera. His shot hit the post. Pring picked up a yellow. I mean, do you think we managed the game out well with the 7 minutes of added time, Ian?
I'd say reasonably. I wouldn't say I wasn't sat there thinking, "Oh yeah, we've cracked this," and I would have much preferred it to be 4 minutes than 7. So it's basically a typical City, another 2 or 3 years off your life. But yeah, I mean, I think we did as well as we possibly could. I think Cornick did well for us in terms of chasing a few lost causes and stopping them playing out and generally being a pest. Which is why if we were to switch to something like a 4-3-1-2 at Southampton, I'd like to see him playing a 2 with Tommy, because I think they'd both be better at that, and it would enable us to retain the ball better in the final third and play others in. But then you've got other things like, how do you fit Mark Sykes into that team? But Manning alluded to the fact that he might rest some people because we got the 3 games in 8 days.
Pring picked up that yellow where he took almost, it was a bad foul according to the BBC text feed on the action. How do you think Cam played yesterday? I thought he was quiet. A few bursts in the first half, but the second half, it's the opposite side of the pitch to me. But do you think he had a good game?
Not a great game, but then again, you've got 2 players in front who will work hard and try and get back, but they're not blessed with great tracking and defensive skills. So you've got either Sam Bell or Anis Mehmeti, which is why he made the change to a 5 when he brought Cal Naismith on. It was to give Cam Pring a hand, as Cam's going through a bit of a period like George Tanner did, where we were playing sides with a really good winger on his side. So you had he did very well against Brereton Diaz, when he was playing for Blackburn. But he's had he's had some real pacey guys on that side.
So he's got to do his defensive duties, which is why we don't see him bursting forward quite so much.
Yeah, I mean, I've said to you before, I'd still be terrified, even in the Liam Manning early days. I'd still be terrified if I was a fullback to get caught too high up the pitch. And then possibly, I mean, if we were playing with a 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, however you look at it, you'd see him more in forward areas. And if Sykes was the other wing back, he'd be the same. But in a 4, it is more difficult to get forward unless you've got cover in midfield. And at the moment, we haven't got it totally. If we had 3 narrow in midfield, so let's say you had, for example, Naismith, James, and Taylor Gardner-Hickman, then you'd see Cam firstly get the ball more, but you'd see him unable to get forward because he knew that Cal Naismith could fill in behind him. He hasn't got that safety blanket, if you want to call it that.
So you focus
And I think that's why, and neither of the
you
fullbacks
focus on
do.
his defensive. But Neil, that double substitution on with 20 minutes to go, Tommy went off. Sam Bell, who'd played for the England, what is it, under-20s, done the assist. I thought Cornick, I thought he did okay. He looked a little bit leggy to me a couple of times. He did one good run where he took the ball right the way down the line, so took the ball forward. But what I want to say is, Mehmeti, he was bought by Pearson. Yeah, he was the maverick that Pearson wanted, and he's been pretty dire when he has come on, and he wasn't great at QPR. But I thought that 20-minute cameo yesterday, there were a few touches where you saw a glimpse of what we saw in his first couple of games at Ashton Gate. Should we be excited about the prospect of him maybe living up to expectation, and a player that Liam Manning, we believe, wanted to sign when he was at Oxford? So Wickham to Oxford, is a different level to this. But what did you think of Mehmeti on that, what you saw yesterday?
Again, over my side of the pitch, I saw the best and the worst of him.
All right, tell us more.
Defensively, he's woeful. Okay. He came on and they played it around him, and he put Pring at such a disadvantage.
Is that what led to the booking?
That's what led to the booking.
Right.
It was his guy, Banguera. So they bought Silveira Banguera. So the moment they bought Mehmeti on, they specifically doubled up over that side because they knew that Mehmeti would not track his runner. And about 3 or 4 times, they were getting him behind, and it was Mehmeti's man. He was trying to, he was trying to do the right thing, but it's not his game.
No.
It's like putting Jakanowski there. Everybody might say that, but he would just go, "Oh, yeah, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm not entirely sure what I should be." So he's running. He came on, and straight away, it's like 20 minutes. He's been on the bench. He comes on wearing gloves. The only one wearing gloves on the thing. You're like, right, okay. And he's there, and that booking, the Pring, that was his guy round the back.
Right.
So the ball's played in. It was Banguera, and he let him go, pass him behind. Pring had to make that last-ditch challenge and got the yellow for it.
And Pring misses the game at Southampton. I think Dave Thev's pointed out he's got 5 bookings.
Is that his 5th booking? I'm not surprised, actually. Dealing with Pring for a moment, when he's getting the ball at the moment, last season, the second half of last season, he went outside a lot more. He's getting the ball at the moment, he's going inside, and he's very left-footed, and he's often driving himself in the middle of the field.
Just gets pushed away.
And he gets pushed away. I'm using my hands, which doesn't work so well, does it?
Those are watching black and white. Yeah.
But the point is that he's not going outside anywhere near, and he's not getting to the byline anywhere near as much. So I take on board the fact that, defensively, he's got these players in front of him that don't offer as much cover, but then a midfielder could drop in, a left back, if he's going forward or whatever. It doesn't necessarily, offensively, he hasn't hit the heights of the second half of last season.
Fair enough.
I think by, how many assists he got, do you know what I mean? He was outstanding at the end of last season for a period, and he hasn't hit those heights yet. Hopefully, still a long way to go in the season. But Mehmeti, you saw a few times get the ball down, running at players with pace, tricky, had a fantastic, good save by Deng.
Yeah.
And you think that is his strength. And you can see that from what they're saying. But we had to change our formation. We had to bring Naismith on to go to the 3 because of the issues that were happening over that side.
All right.
So he changed the formation to negate that left back.
We got to make a change. We got to make a change Wednesday, which we come on to now. I just want to say a couple of things. The crowd, that was funny yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah. Today's attendance 19, blah, blah, whatever it was. with 1,800 away supporters, and then attendance correction. I haven't done the maths, but I think
it's a Downsy special, isn't it? I mean,
I don't think it was him. I think he was probably fed the wrong number, because I thought, that's our lowest of the season.
He read out the result at half time and said Man City had won 1-0 against Liverpool.
I didn't hear that.
And it's just like there's just like errors.
Anyway, error. Ian, referee John Busby, he gave us a penalty, so we got to give him a mark for that. I thought he refereed the game quite well yesterday. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think so. Kept his cards in his pocket as far as he could. Didn't book people continually. So he did his best to let the game flow, and he did it quite well.
Yeah. I was just going to say, let's move on to Wednesday against Southampton. I think
Matthew Seaward has just said Naismith to play left back Wednesday. Well, he has
played there before. He can play there.
I can't think of anybody else that can play there.
That was going to be my question.
Because Roberts is injured.
That's who plays there, but it has to be Naismith, because that's where he played a lot of games for Luton. And looking at Wednesday against Southampton, you were saying about playing Tommy in a 2 with Cornick, and you put a question mark, where do you fit Mark Sykes into that? I'll throw that back and say, there seems to be a bit of a love-in with Sam Bell, who does sometimes look like a little boy lost out there, right? And Mehmeti clearly isn't the answer based on what Neil said, and I reckon that
just in that formation,
all right,
he defensively compromises us
with Mehmeti, okay,
but he offers something offensively.
But you could have that Conway Cornick thing, Ian, and then keep Sykes in, but picking up on what Liam Manning said, resting players. You could rest Sam for the game against Russell Martin's Southampton.
You could. There's a number of things.
Tell me what you would do. What would your lineup be Wednesday?
Well, knowing that Cam's out, because if Cam was fit, I wouldn't mind seeing us crowd the midfield and Butt play 2 up top. So you can go 3-5-2. Or you could go a 4-3-1-2. So Knight is your 1. The 2 up front are Conway and Cornick. And then you have to, with Naismith now having to go to left back, Sykes could be your 3rd midfield player. Or you could play Joe Williams there, Matty James, TGH, and Joe Williams. So you've got your 4-3 and your 1-2. The only issue is, where do you get your width from? And I suppose what you could do is play Mark Sykes at right back to give you a lot more attacking threat on the right hand side. Yeah, and
I'll be honest, I think that's the position that he does reasonably well. I think you can put in a tackle.
Well, if you want more attacking threat from your right back, you play Mark Sykes there instead of George Tanner. Simple as that. Now he might go down there and do exactly the same again. Matthew Seaward's also said
Arroyo. He spelled it wrong. He said Arroyo could play wing back.
Yeah, or could play. And he's left-sided. He's one of a number of younger, and he's a big lad. So might be a time to bring him in if you want to play Cal in a midfield.
Interesting. Interesting. You say that point there about Arroyo, because he didn't make the bench. I mean, yesterday I was surprised Yeboah made it to the match 18 when you look at the fact that on the bench you've got Vyman, Mehmeti and Cornick are all forward options on there. So maybe Yeboah is still impressing in training, but you could have had another young defender on the bench.
He could have, because he only had 8 subs.
Yeah, he didn't have a full bench.
Oh, he didn't, did he? No,
he didn't have a full bench.
Interesting.
So I never really quite understand that, because I know it was Nigel Pearson's decision to put Knight, LaBelle and Arroyo in the first team squad, and we haven't seen Arroyo since. So apart from you're right, he is playing for the under 21s, and I'd have no problem seeing him play that position. I mean, big game down at St Mary's, but there's a full City travelling contingent, so I think it's got all the hallmarks of being
Be
a
nice,
packer.
be nice
I mean,
to get
they're
a
a decent
point down
side.
there. They're fourth in the table, aren't they? Yes, and they've turned their season.
Yeah.
I mean, Russell Martin looked like he was dead man walking, say 6 games ago, but he seems to have got them playing okay. I haven't watched highlights of their game against Huddersfield yesterday.
Well, it wasn't that great, but I mean, if Huddersfield can get a point against them, so can we. But Southampton, in terms of the form table, they before yesterday's game, they were top,
They are
and they were picking up 2.33 points a game. So their record is drew before yesterday, and they drew again. So their record was drew 1-1-1, drew 1, and yesterday they drew. So they're banging form. And if you I'll just scroll down to the home and away. On home form, they are only 13th.
Yeah.
So their home record is so far this season is, and you have to take into account their start. Their home record is played 8, won 4, drew 2, lost 2, and they do concede. They scored 16 goals, but they have conceded 14.
Yeah.
Now, so they're a million miles from unbeatable. So let's go down there with a nice positive attitude and see if we can win 2 games back to back for the first time in 34 games.
That would be, I mean, that's a bit of a big ask going down there. Big ask, that was, if people misheard me there. A bit of a big ask for the Cubs to go down to Southampton and try and get back-to-back wins.
I think
what? Because we're Bristol City.
Just because they haven't lost since Middlesbrough on the 23rd of they're 2 months undefeated. No, not because we're Bristol City, just because they were in the Premier League last year and they got more resources than us. I'd love us to win. Yeah, I'd take a point now, though, as I'm sure you will.
Let's go down there and try and win. If we got to settle for a draw, great.
I think if we go down there, and I do agree with Ian on this in the fact that if we go down there now and we just try and defend, then we're going to get beat.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing to gain from going down there. I'm looking at that, Armstrong up front on fire. They've got Stuart Armstrong in midfield, Fraser, Smallbone, Walker, Peters, Sulemana. The bench that they've got, Ross Stewart, Edozie, Aribo, Che Adams. The only way you're going to actually get anything from that game
is to take them on,
is to be positive and to go into that game and to go back to Manning's front foot thing. You go there and you go, right, let's take the game to them. Yeah. If we lose, we lose, but we go down on a positive mindset.
I agree.
And we actually go.
But that's what I'm saying.
When we went up to Leicester and we lost that game 1-0, okay, daft penalty by Naismith in the end. But the mindset, you could tell the mindset was like, let's just hold on for a draw.
Yeah.
And then you end up, achieving nothing really at the end of the day. It's a cold night. It's going to be cold down there. And, winter's night down there. They concede goals. You get at them early doors. You get 1 or 2 goals ahead. Then you hang on in the beautiful way that we did yesterday in the second half. But the point is, I think there are mountains of sides in this division that have better squads on paper than us, but we have to achieve something with the squad that we actually.
But it is a squad that our owners say is good enough to mount a playoff challenge. That's what they think.
Point,
I mean, look, it would be great. It would be great to come away from Southampton with something, because then it extends the unbeaten run to 4 games. It extends the unbeaten run to 4 games. We got Norwich at home on Sunday, lunchtime kickoff.
1:30 kickoff.
And that's a winnable game, even though they were in the higher level. And then Huddersfield away, and then 2 home games before Christmas, Sunderland and Hull. So we've got a chance, to build a momentum. And building momentum, even at this stage, if that means getting a point at Southampton, which would be an achievement, I'm happy with that. I mean, it's interesting. It shows how bunched this division is, because if you extrapolate our points total, I mean, at one stage yesterday we were 9th, but I was surprised we dropped down to 11th. But if you extrapolate that 25 points from 17 games, it only racks up at about 67, which has been our max pretty much, for the last 3 years. If you look at where we were this stage of the season, it's that 69 points. We need to put a run, as Ian has just said, get a run to put a couple of wins together. And who knows, if we got a win at Southampton and we beat Norwich, then we're starting to gate crash it. Because if you look at the top of the division, you've got the two sides running away with it, although Ipswich have wobbled a little bit, haven't they? That's their second defeat in 3, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
You've got the two sides at the top. Then you've got another, I think, 2 or 3 sides, and I don't know, how many points are we off the playoffs now?
3
points.
3 points off the playoffs, and that's Preston, and then West Brom. So, and then another 2 points. It goes 28, 29, Southampton on 31. Southampton beat us and go on to 34. We're 9 points off of 4th with 18 games gone. That's the negative about losing there, because then I think we're one of 12 clubs chasing. I think we're one of 12 clubs chasing 2 slots.
So you look at the Championship table at the moment, and it is same old, isn't it? There's 3 relegated clubs, 3 of the top 4 places, and you're like, here we are again in the season. I know we digress a little bit from the game yesterday, but there seems to be nothing changed on parachute payments or anything, is there?
No.
It's another season gone by with this financial nonsense where Leicester can sell £80 million worth of players in Barnes and Maddison, and yet go out, keep the nucleus of the squad, and add to it with players like Harry Winks coming in and all the rest of it. And it just
it'll be the same next season with Burnley, because they'll be coming back down.
I mean, it is a cartel, isn't it?
But it's no different. If you're in the Premier League, you're thinking it's a cartel when poor old Everton have been whopped with a 10-point deduction and more to follow.
Yeah, but everyone gets the same TV money.
Man City have committed 115 breaches. So when is that going to happen? Or is that because they're owned by a sovereign state?
But there is 25, also 25, possibly 26, 27 clubs who have divvied up basically the Premier League, haven't they? Really. And the Premier League wants certain clubs to be in the Premier League.
Yeah.
It doesn't want Luton's.
It doesn't want Luton.
It doesn't want
Bournemouth, even Sheffield United. No, there's not.
It wants sort of.
It wants names. It wants Leeds there.
Yeah.
It wants
clubs that they can sell to overseas markets.
Correct. All right, Ian. We'll be back on third.
The point about the financial fair play is that would be like turkeys voting for Christmas, so they're not going to do it. So the government's appointing a regulator who's said to them already, or the government have said already, you either change it and make it a lot better, or we'll legislate. Now, at the moment, they're looking at making a payment to the clubs in the divisions below just shy of £1 billion. Now, how that would be divvied up, I've got no idea. But at the moment, they do it on a pro rata basis. So let's say they gave an extra 10 million to each championship club. Okay, that's not a lot out of £1 billion. So it could be 15, 20. And then you do it pro rata down through the divisions. It would make a huge difference. Now, for example, if a League Two club was getting £2 million, that would be almost double their turnover for a lot of them. So that would be a fair way. No one's saying you shouldn't get more for being in the Premier League, because you've got that. The ambition is to get to that top echelon, but it isn't fair. They didn't make a decision last time. The government and Labour, who look like they'll form the next government, have already said that's something they'd support as well. In fact, they'd be more draconian than the mob we've got in now. So you've got a situation where it will be made fairer. Now, whether they get rid of parachute payments entirely, but they will beef up the financial capability of the clubs below. And there's 2 reasons for that. At the moment, half the clubs in the Championship are up for sale, either openly or not openly.
Which includes us.
For example,
includes us.
I could go and buy Preston tomorrow for £40 million, but I'd have to take on the £70 million worth of debt they've got. That's roughly where they were last time out. The new guy came in and bought Coventry, he paid off their 70 million debt in the same way that Steve Lansdown has continually paid off our debt by either by turning it into equity and pumping cash into the club. That the Lansdowns out brigade, who seem to have gone about this with about as much thought as I don't know, as much thought as my dog gives to going for a walk. Because the minute you say to them, well, okay, Steve Lansdown's leaving, then what? And the comment is either, I don't know, well, somebody else is bound to come in and buy it. And when you go, well, are they? Why? They've got no idea how much debt we're in. They've got no idea really how finance works. So no one's been able, what I'm saying so far is no one's been able to give me a valid explanation to what happens when someone goes. And Steve's already said, you can buy the club piecemeal, you can buy the lot, you can do what you like, but I want my money back, which is only fair. It's only what.
Yeah, but hang on. But let me stop you there, Ian. Right, and I do need to wrap things up because I've got to process this and I've got to shoot out somewhere. I hear what you say about what happens if they go, right? I mean, the guy or the people that had the 70 million of debt that Coventry had incurred, that you just said, and that Preston had incurred, right? That was somebody's debt that somebody, now with Coventry, you said the bloke who came in there paid that off, right? And you said at Preston, it's a bargain price, but you're inheriting 70 million pounds worth of debt.
I don't think it's a bargain price. If I had 100 million pound, I certainly wouldn't go and do that.
The point of the matter is, and we've had this discussion offline, the point of the matter is Steve Lansdown wants all his money back and he ain't going to get it, and that's why nobody's come. But I haven't seen a club. I haven't seen a club.
You're completely wrong. He hasn't said he wants all of his money back. He has said he's happy to sell the club piecemeal, so somebody could just buy the City, right, or the Bears, or what? They don't need to buy the infrastructure necessarily. Now, I wouldn't want the club without the infrastructure because otherwise I don't think it's worth much. But somebody hasn't come forward and offered him an acceptable deal for anything, as far as we know.
Well, that's the key thing.
It's no good making scenarios up and thinking, well, it's going to happen, because it hasn't for the last couple of years. So why should it next week?
No, I agree.
Now, get in the Premier League, all the rules change. They'll be queuing up round the block to buy it.
And that's where we started this debate about the money coming down. You know, until it gets sorted.
I think, and I know conscious you've got to wrap up, so I'll be very, very quick. I think the fact that people are given this money for 3 years on being relegated, their squad values are such, so they benefit on that. And then you hamstrung the people in the Championship by limiting their losses. But then the ones that have come down, half of them go up and have breached FFP when they come up.
I think
Fulham, when they went up, lost 100 million that season when they go up. So they're just flagrantly teams that come down from the Premiership. The
parachute payments, just to equalise it, even if they didn't give every club 10 million, the parachute payments, right, should be restricted to one season with a stipulation being sort yourself out and you get rid of those players on a fire sale, and then you're on a more level playing field when you're down in the Championship.
Or you make it less punitive for the other clubs to actually...
when they've got a rich owner like we've got, because he'd probably spend a bit, and we haven't got time.
Ultimately, then you get new investment into the other 16 clubs that have parachute payments, and they're able to compete financially. You can't ring fence. Some people say you can lose 39 million over 3 years, give people 45 million a season or 40 million a season to come down. And then even then they lose 100 million, but they know they're going straight back up again.
Because they've got the playing squad. No, you're right.
So it's
all right, everybody. Look, it's good to be reporting on a win. We'll be back reviewing the Southampton game Thursday, and then the game against Norwich on Sunday. We're going to review that. I think 7:00 Sunday night, Ian, aren't we? Yes, is that what we agreed? Yep. Next week.
The Norwich game. I should be. Yeah, that's the Norwich game. Southampton, we're doing Thursday morning.
9 o'clock on here. But look, thanks to everybody who's been watching. Good number of you. Thanks for all the text comments down the side. Ty Road Trip has said, in all my years supporting City, I've never heard or seen that Steve Lansdowne wants all his money back. Yes, the parachute system is broken. The champ is no meritocracy. There's good comments there from Ty Road Trip. And everybody else who's commented, everybody else who's listened, thanks as always for your support.
Tim, don't forget, Tim Monaghan wants me to be Prime Minister, but you're all right, Tim.
I think there's not any chance of that happening. Not yet. More chance than Nigel Farage than you. Let's put it like that. Right. I'm a celebrity. Let's get out of here. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Goodbye.